This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Welcome to a Thursday edition of the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. You're seeing us for the second time this week. We got breaking news that we never expected to have. The New York Yankees have lost Eric Chavez, their assistant hitting coach, for just over 2 weeks to the New York Mets. He got a promotion with the Mets. The Yankees waved him on by. They loved him the last time we spoke about him, but I guess not enough to block him from getting a promotion. Or maybe Steve Cohen is just smart enough to find the number one loophole that the New York Yankees could not refuse. But either way, we got cucked on January 6th. Pretty fun. Also, the New York Yankees are projected to land a top-tier free agent by an MLB insider. We didn't see it coming, but we will assess whether it's realistic. SNY, speaking of the Mets, pitched a bunch of terrible center field options. The absolute worst you've ever heard if you want to be angry about an article. One time this week, make it this article. And a little Sunday Night Baseball shakeup with double Yankee flavor. Folks, make sure to find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Drop us a 5-star review along with the mailbag question. Be more than happy to answer it in your review right there and live on YouTube. 1 o'clock, and by 1 o'clock, I mean 2 o'clock. 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern, Monday and Thursday. Little extra jazz in the intro today. Thomas Carannante, welcome to the podcast. What the fuck just happened?
I don't know. And of course, it's something we got to wake up to. Is there really any time to deliver the Yankees to deliver bad news? It happens at night. It's like, great. Now I have to sleep on this. It happens before lunch. Oh, now I don't have an appetite. Happens before you go into a family party. Great. Not getting my nephew a birthday gift. Not happening. No. So I don't get it. I'm still digging for this. This is why I wish we were people's journos and had some good sources, because you're looking around Twitter. I went Mark Feinsand was the one who reported this morning about Chavez going to the Mets. Yep. Just said, hey, he's no longer with the Yankees. He's going to the Mets. Okay, cool, great. So
said it like it was normal. Just said it was like a normal thing. Like, hey, Eric Chavez actually surprisingly not going to join the Yankees. Going to join the Mets. Yeah. They announced his hire. They put a graphic out. I mean, that doesn't just happen.
And then you have Brian Hoke come out a couple hours ago. And there's just no information here. Quote, Aaron Boone had envisioned Chavez as the Swiss Army knife of the Yankees coaching staff, helping out in all areas. Instead, the Yanks granted permission for Chavez to take on a larger role in Queens. I don't know why. I just don't get. Yeah, I don't. So you hire a guy who Aaron Boone comes on a presser to talk about how, this guy, great knowledge of baseball. Obviously talked about his past accomplishments as an MLB player and how that can translate into the dugout, and how obviously the Yankees need somebody like that. The Yankees need someone, some sort of presence in that dugout, in the clubhouse, whatever you want to say, that has kind of the knowledge of this past generation of players, has the success, knows how to deal with the spotlight, all of that. Chavez seemed to be the guy. We were kind of excited. I was excited as I could possibly be. And hey, I'm glad I kind of tempered my expectations, because now he doesn't exist. Now he's not even here. So I don't understand why the Yankees would grant him permission to get a better job. Because that's what this was. He was interviewed for the bench coach role. And then the Mets deemed he would be a better fit in the hitting coach role. And now they're going to hire a more analytics-driven individual for the bench coach role. I don't understand. This makes me think, and I could be wrong. We don't have I don't know if we have all the information. We may or may not. This could be the end of it, and that's it. But this makes me think that the Yankees are just pushovers. I don't know why you would let someone who you clearly valued and hired and made an ordeal to announce and have your manager speak highly of this person to just go and interview with a rival and then take on a larger, a better and bigger job with a team that's, kind of direct. Mets are trying to directly compete with the Yankees in the best ways possible. You're signing free agents. You're trying to build a team that's going to keep New York baseball competitive. All great, but I don't understand the thought process from the organizational standpoint. Maybe Chavez had a clause in his contract that said he can go and talk to whoever he wants at any point in time, and that was one of the caveats. And Steve Cohen found that out and was like, "Yeah, let's take him over. We'll do another round two of trolling." but just makes me really think that the Yankees don't have there's no cutthroat business here. It's not what it used to be, and it stinks.
Forget to sign a contract? Like, what are we doing here? And I understand. I had some snarkiness in the mentions today that I was fighting off. I had somebody be like, dude, do you people are allowed to change their minds and renege on jobs, right? And it's like, yeah, I do understand people are allowed to change their minds in the world of employment, but that typically doesn't happen in Major League Baseball or major sports after an announcement is made. I don't remember Francisco Lindor last year. That was after the extension. I don't remember him being like, actually, I will not be extending. Goodbye. Like, typically when things are announced, they're done. And if there's wiggle room, if all we'd had was speculation where somebody was like, the Yankees are targeting Eric Chavez. And then it was like, Eric Chavez looks like he'll be a done deal with the Yankees. And then nobody would comment. And then it was like, whoa, a rapid about face. It turns out he's actually joining the Mets. Like, that would be one thing, right? But this was a finalized hire 2 weeks ago. They sent out a press release. They sent Aaron Boone out over Christmas to talk about what a great fit it was. At what point did the Mets reach out to him? And at what point did Hal Steinbrenner say, yes, you can do that? Like, what kind of guy is Eric Chavez? I understand that it's bad form. It really is not. Look, the Yankees were between a rock and a hard place here. It's not good form to deny somebody a promotion or a chance at a better role elsewhere. And so even if the Boston Red Sox had reached out and said, we'd like to hire Eric Chavez to be our bench coach or our hitting coach or our manager, the Yankees would probably ultimately say yes so that they could keep up a good reputation with other candidates throughout the league. But what kind of guy is Eric Chavez that he's checking in on new job opportunities after 2 weeks with the organization during which he wasn't even working? He didn't even spend time with the organization. What did he do? Fly to spring training for a day, go meet some prospects, and then go back, have a Christmas goose? Like, what the fuck did he do? It was week one. Obviously bad precedent if Hal Steinbrenner stepped out front of this. And it becomes a war of words. It becomes the Yankees are a hostile place to work. And why would a coach want to join this franchise? And why would external hires want to come here? If once they're here, you're not letting them out from under your thumb. You have to let people explore. I understand that, look, workers' rights. Absolutely. Not trying to say Eric Chavez can never get out of his Yankees contract, but it was a week and a half. He's really that desperate for dude, if you succeed as the Yankees assistant hitting coach, I'm not expecting you to be here forever. You can take a hitting coach job next year. You can go anywhere you want. You can open up a private hitting academy in the center field bleachers at Yankee Stadium. But you're going to the Mets a week and a half after you were hired. I mean, is that real? Is that anyone's actual inclination? I declined the email from Steve Cohen. I'm not going to lie. Because what even attracted you to the Yankees in the first place? Why did you join this organization? Why did you join the Yankees if you just had the grand plan of I really hope the Mets contact me in the next 3 days. I'll be a Yankee as long as Steve Cohen doesn't email me by January 1st. What's the process here?
Well, the other crazy part about it is, there are other job openings around Major League Baseball that are larger than a Swiss Army knife roll. Maybe he wanted to be in New York and that was his dream. And then he got to New York and then he's like, oh, I can get a better job in New York. That'd be sweet. But in terms of wanting a bigger role, if we're talking surface level stuff here, there are plenty of other bigger roles out there with especially teams who need the help that were there for the taking. So I don't know. I don't know. It's very confusing. I don't understand it. I don't think the Mets exercise any bad practices here.
No.
I don't think Chavez did anything wrong. I think it's stupidity I think it's more so stupidity on the Yankees' part for allowing somebody to interview for another job when they just ink somebody to a contract. Like you said, it's different. Next year, great. Go wherever you want. You sat here for a year. You signed a contract. You did what you had to do. That was it. To do it 2 weeks into a contract and there's a lockout, and we don't even know if the season's going to start on time, which I'm not even talking about that ever until we have a solution, because it's just going to get me more angry. But yeah, once again, but it's the Yankees, dude. In the last 10 years have just been inexplicable happenings. You can't really put your finger on anything. There's no truly diagnosing any problem or root of cause. And that's where we're living. And, you want to talk about other things that don't make sense. But you might want to talk about this one. Mm-hmm. Carlos Correa predicted to land with the Yankees per ESPN's Kylie McDaniel, who I like the guy, trust the guy, works very closely with Jeff Passan, very trusted MLB insider. 9 years, 297 was the contract that was predicted here, I believe. Stunning, purely stunning. I don't know why people think this. I don't know how people think this. If you're a Yankees fan who has watched this team for the past however many years, 10 years or so, I know the Yankees at times have spent aggressively. I know that they have gone off course here and there to get the guys that they wanted. But I'm gonna not count the Garrett Cole deal because the Yankees didn't have an ace for, I think, about 10 years up until that point. So they simply needed to sign Garrett Cole. Really no negotiating there. You could be mad about his contract. You could be mad about his performance in the wild card game. There is no other pitcher that the Yankees could have gotten at that point or in the next couple of years that would have even matched Garrett Cole's abilities. So he's here. He's our ace. Deal with it. Live with it. Complain about it all you want. Nothing else could have been better. And the McCann spending spree with who else was that offseason? It was Brian
Tanaka,
McCann.
Ellsbury, McCann.
Tanaka, Ellsbury, McCann. They tried that one. It was just not good. And then you have the Stanton trade, which I have my problems with just because we needed many more things than Giancarlo Stanton. But obviously I'm eating my words over these last few months because Giancarlo Stanton carried the Yankees in August and September, and even October if you were to count that. But once again, my issue always lies with the higher ups, and acquiring a contract that big in Giancarlo Stanton's was just going to give the Yankees an excuse to not spend more. And I know money is a sensitive issue because you can't be spending $300 million on your payroll to justify having a winning team, but you could have done smarter things. You could have maybe been more aggressive with trading prospects. You could have been more aggressive with other free agents and had it done. And here we are. We're talking about being aggressive with the top free agent on the board to potentially railroad the Yankees' future plans of getting Anthony Volpe as a starting future shortstop. And we don't know how this fits the puzzle. Would you be on board with this? I'm fine with it. I think our philosophy reigns supreme here. You get a good player, you figure out the configuration later, as long as it's not something as egregious as acquiring Matt Chapman to be a shortstop, because he's not a shortstop, never played shortstop. But maybe Anthony Volpe goes to second when Gleyber Torres' time in the Bronx ends, or maybe he plays a little bit of third base to start his career. I don't know, but is this good news for you, or are you just kind of whatever? Someone's making a prediction, doesn't really matter.
It's good news for me, but it does still feel like, I think the 2003 Yankees would sign Carlos Correa, but I don't know what indication about the current Yankees and the way they operate makes any MLB insider genuinely predict, because it's not the Yankees are gonna sign Correa. It's don't be surprised if the Yankees hop in at the end of this. I would be really surprised if the Yankees hop in at the end of this to outbid people. There's so many indications and so many breadcrumbs being laid out all across the league. People saying, anonymous scouts saying, Andrelton Simmons hasn't really lost a step, actually. Just the Yankees planting people throughout baseball. Again, they just let a coach wriggle out film a week after they said he was a perfect fit. Why do I think the Yankees have some master plan to hop into the finish line and go grab Carlos Correa? I said this morning. The Yankees are, I don't know if the Mets are going to win the World Series this year. I don't know what the Mets are going to do, but Steve Cohen's Mets are definitely the evil empire. Hal Steinbrenner hasn't done anything evil in 15 years. He doesn't even do anything interesting, let alone evil. And so it would be the evil empire thing to go get Carlos Correa and damn the future later. And I would be definitely on board for either Correa or Story. Correa is the better player. Correa can play third base. I don't think Gio Urshela is a long-term fit for the Yankees. I think he can play third base. He's
we just think from an athletic standpoint, yeah.
No, yeah, he's an A-Rod body type who, if the time comes, I think can play third base. And he's going to lose his range at some point. You can sell me on it being a crippling contract. I would be on board for the Carlos Correa edition ultimately if we were in a world where the Yankees actually did intend to jump in at the finish line. I do mentioning a very funny thing that's been going on Twitter too today. I don't know if you know Randy Wilkins, who's he's directing the Derek Jeter multi-part doc for ESPN. It's going to be great. He's a very outspoken Yankee fan, and he obviously knows some people. He's got some inside information. So there was a tweet going around that said, it's people saying it's really frustrating the Yankees did nothing before the lockout, and he responded, they were close to a deal around the lockout. They just ran out of time. They're going to make moves. It's going to be fine. he indicated that that was knowledge he had, but that he was not willing to share it. So basically, he knows a deal was on the verge of getting done with somebody. We don't know who. The Yankees weren't able to close it. And so that is what it is. It's a nice little tidbit to go into the rest of the offseason with. We have the lockout to sit on that and stew for a long time. Somebody picked up that quote about nothing, about a deal between the Yankees and a player and a team, and picked that up and started writing about how that meant a Carlos Correa deal was close, was on the horizon. This article is insane. The article uses that tweet. It has a little bold header that says close to a deal, but not quite there yet for the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees will be clamoring for an announcement about who will take the spot on the diamond come 2022. And according to some, the delay is not necessarily a spot of bother. Then it's all about how, Randy Wilkins said a Carlos Correa deal was close. It sounds like when I used to do night shifts and it was 1:45 in the morning and I was just absolutely writing the worst content of all time, as the clock struck 2. And then I woke up the next day being like, that's not English. That's what that seems like to me. Look, I do not think the Yankees were close to a Carlos Correa deal at any point. That article should not have been written. Randy's a trustworthy guy. And the fact that I trust him is the reason that shouldn't have been written. It didn't say the name Carlos Correa. It had nothing to do with Carlos Correa. There's no indication it was about Carlos Correa. There are like 75 players on the market. The Yankees were close to signing or acquiring one of them. And that's very exciting, but has nothing to do with Carlos Correa. Congrats to Kylie for the prediction. I'm still not buying it. I don't think the modern Yankees have that in their bones, but they can prove me wrong in a month or 2 or 3 whenever the signings occur. Before we move on to the back half of the podcast, this podcast is brought to you by Blindsided, the first ever mental health podcast from the Players Tribune. Plan your work and work your plan. For many athletes, sayings such as this could be considered scripture, permanent signposts lining the long road to success in sports. For some, the very act of pursuing a career in sports can give a sense of control, a sense of safety, so long as you stick to the plan. That is, until life happens. The kind of life that happens while you're making other plans. Breakdowns, insecurity, panic attacks, PTSD, addiction, sudden life changes, ones that require an athlete to toss aside their well-laid plans and answer the question, what's your next play? Blindsided is a podcast about sports, mental health, and life from the Players Tribune, hosted by former NHL goalie Corey Hirsch and psychiatrist Dr. Diane McIntosh. The podcast will share and analyze the moments for a variety of athletes when everything changed for them and what happened when it did. The podcast lets listeners hear these athletes describe moments when mental health became the most important focus in their lives. It dives in deeper. It gets clinical. Guests this season include Kevin Love, Paul Bissonnette, and Kurt Warner. That's Blindsided, the first ever mental health podcast from the Players Tribune. Please check that out. My mental health, not fantastic, although certainly maybe the problems are not clinical. I don't think the Eric Chavez screaming conversation is diagnosable. I think it's just your everyday garden variety nonsense. I had much more fun skewering the Mets this week in a different direction because if you're employed to write for SNY, that is the Mets channel. That's where the Mets are on TV. It's not. Their ads are get your New York sports here. That's not what it is. It's a Mets channel. They show the New York Mets. So someone at SNY wrote a column. 5 center field options that can help the Yankees. Aaron Hicks is a bit of a burden. You never know if he's going to stay healthy, whatnot. The Yankees certainly need center field help. And I think my pitch is more Gallo in center field, sign Seiya Suzuki in left, something like that. Their pitch was 5 of the worst center fielders in baseball, as if somebody just scrolled down the transaction wire and were like, who are the 5 worst performing minor league contract level dudes? Let's just assign those to the New York Yankees and attach the names together, make Yankee fans think that a deal is close. Kevin Pillar was the only one of the 5 where I was like, sure, if Kevin Pillar is the last ditch addition to the outfield, yeah, not my first choice, second, third, fourth, or fifth, hasn't been on a winning team in quite a while, but yes, he's got grit. He's a good fielder. He can hit 250 with very limited power. Fine. Almost, kind of, sort of. The other options, Billy Hamilton, who was on the White Sox last year and hit like 162 in 35 games. Juan Lagares, who is the worst regular player on the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, a terrible team. Jake Marisnick, who's still in baseball and was a shitty 2020 Met and was a shitty 2021 Padre and 2021 Cub. Absolutely no thank you. And then the worst option of all, Odubel Herrera on the Phillies, a bad baseball player with no consistency and no glove and no power, who was barely above average offensively and then committed domestic violence and was suspended from baseball. So if the Yankees signed Odubel Herrera and let him back in baseball this year as their center field contingency plan when he's both not talented and a criminal, please get out of here.
Not talented. Oh, that's good.
I mean, you shouldn't sign someone with those allegations, even if they have all the talent in the world. But he doesn't. So why would you even consider it mentally weighing on you? Don't even think about it.
I agree. Enough people had a problem with acquiring Aroldis Chapman. That was a little bit shady. The Yankees clearly took advantage of that because they knew they would get him on a discount given the allegations he was facing. Water under the bridge at this point. What do you want me to do? You want me to run do you want me to run Aroldis Chapman out of town? He could squish me with his pinky, so it doesn't matter.
I can't help you there.
This is patently ridiculous. This is clearly just, you're going through, hey, who's available? Well, let me go to MLB top free agents. What do we got there? All bad players. If the Yankees did any of these, this would be worthy of a riot of sorts. Mm-hmm. They need somebody who is look, I think Ender Inciarte is a better acquisition than any of these guys.
Yes.
Ender Inciarte is better probably defensively than everybody except Kevin Pillar. I think maybe they might be on the same plane just because of how little Ender Inciarte has played over the last 2.5 years or so. Mm-hmm. And given his struggles last year and how he was kind of de-emphasized. But he's a lefty bat. He has all-star potential, way more all-star potential than any of these other guys, in my opinion, based on how he's performed throughout his career. And dude, hot take, Brett Gardner's better than all these guys. And I know that sounds insane.
Jake Marisnick? I don't know. I gotta crunch the numbers.
Yankees fans, you hate Brett. The people who are fed up with Brett Gardner's run as the Yankees outfielder or a guy who's playing 140 games, you will be on your knees begging for Brett Gardner next year if any of these guys are playing center field for the Yankees next year. I understand Aaron Hicks is a point of contention right now. He's been injured. He signed a 7-year contract that many of us did not agree with it. That's not our problem. Good for the guy. He's making his money. He's trying to get back on track. It is what it is. He's a switch-hitting center fielder. He is here. He is untradeable unless the Yankees want to eat money and give it away for free. They are not going to do that. They don't do that anymore. They don't operate in that fashion. So Aaron Hicks will be platooning with somebody. We can presume Ender Inciarte. That was a shrewd pickup. I know it's only a minor league deal. He's coming in for spring training. We'll see what happens. But then you got to look at the potential for Gallo to move over to center. I don't know why this isn't a more widely discussed aspect of the offseason. It could solve a lot of issues. It would allow. Look, we need to talk more about Giancarlo Stanton playing the field. When he started playing the field, his numbers went up. Playing the field and batting is very crucial, I think, for a player's brain. You don't want to be stuck walking to and fro the dugout when you're having a bad slump. All you're doing is, oh, great, I struck out again for the 4th time. Let me go sit on the bench for this half inning while, we bring in Nick Nelson to get shelled for a 30-minute inning.
You don't want to go 2. You don't want to go 2. You definitely don't want to go fro.
Yeah. But anyway, so you put Gallo in center. You give Giancarlo Stanton some time left. I'm not saying 100 games. Maybe we get him out there for 70, 75,
sure,
85. Whatever. Knows? But it's not talked about enough that Joey Gallo should potentially be platooning with Aaron Hicks in center field. If Aaron Hicks gets injured, that's a different story. I'm on board with Seiya Suzuki. It's a low cost to pay for a guy who's clearly shown he could play professional ball. I know it's not going to be probably at the level that he's been playing in Japan, but there's enough versatility. There's enough 5-tool-ish stuff there to give us some sort of success at the major league level, especially in a lineup with these guys. You put a bat like that, you put a glove like that amongst other good defenders and other good hitters, you're probably going to see some good progress. I don't think the answer here is signing a guy who is fringe major league, unless I just like Ender Inciarte. I'm going to be biased here. I think it's a smart move. He bats lefty. He can steal bags. I think he has higher upside than any of these guys that were mentioned. This is what the Indians would do, or the Guardians would do.
Yeah.
This is not what the Yankees would do. These are not realistic options. And if they are, then just shoot me out of a cannon into the Hudson River on, February 15th when the water is absolutely freezing, because I'm not doing this.
It's just a list of what you would do if you're trying to get worse. That's all it is. It's like if you're trying to make your team suck, here are 5 center field options that suck that you can sign to make yourself actively. Like, I would rather see Estevan Florial over Billy Hamilton.
Yeah.
Having Billy Hamilton on your AAA team is the second. Having Kevin Pillar on your roster, fine. Having Billy Hamilton on your AAA team as a September pinch runner, potential postseason pinch runner, also fine. But he can't get on base, so that's why he's never started at any level since 2016. The other three guys are the dudes you roll your eyes at. You absolutely are furious when you give up a home run to Juan Lagares or you give up a back-breaking single. And Jake Marisnick, I haven't even seen play since 2017. He cheated more than almost any other Astro. I believe he had 83 bangs that year, and he was the worst Astro in the regular lineup in 2017.
They calculated the bangs?
Yeah, they calculated the bangs.
Oh. I mean, but dude, you look at his 2017, it's night and day. Highest OPS of his career by far. 16 homers, most homers of his career by 6. OBP, everything was just unbelievable.
Good defensive center fielder. Yeah, good defensive center fielder, but just has no place on a team that matters at this point. He's destined to be on the 4th place team in the NL Central for 4 straight years, or to continually keep getting, jettisoned in August and dumped onto some contenders bench when they're just taking a wild swing in the middle of the season. I can't. If Jake Marisnick is it matters next year, then I will be absolutely shocked. Please let it not be here. Obviously, again, this list was compiled by a Mets writer in the same way that if I were writing a list called 5 hitting coach options for the Mets, I wouldn't have included Eric Chavez and I would have included 5 hilarious failures. I would have been like, why don't you give Carlos Beltran a try? I'm sure that won't be controversial. Why don't you the old man who pitches to Pete Alonso in the home run derby, why don't you make him your hitting coach? Like, I would have just started suggesting shit like that, because this is the same thing. Was this column written at 3 a.m. at the end of a night shift? Is that what we did? Did you accidentally scroll to the bottom of the available free agents page instead of the top and just forget to check and be like, wow, it looks like slim pickings. I guess I'll just write about these 5 terrible baseball players. Best of luck to the New York Mets and also the New York Yankees in not signing any of these human beings. Before we go, let's talk about Alex Rodriguez's Manning cast.
Yeah,
I assume is going to be on Fox Business. You can't air that on television. That's for no one. Bombshell came out on Wednesday night that the Sunday Night Baseball booth, which has had to change forever, it's so bad. I love baseball. It's so bad. I don't watch Sunday Night Baseball unless my team is on, and I don't even like watching my team, so I usually don't watch that either. Just kidding, I do, but I'm definitely not tuning in for the spectacle. There's never been a point when I'm like, what's the Sunday night game? It's the 3rd place Phillies against the 4th place Mets. I think I'll turn it on to see what A-Rod and Matt Vasgersian have to say. I think it's going to be very entertaining and a fun product. So a shakeup at the worldwide leader. Looks like David Cohn might be in the national broadcast. He's currently the favorite, I believe, to get the spot of the color analyst on the national broadcast. Does that mean he is going to remain on Yes Network? Do you know if he's going to be dropping that or just doing it?
I didn't see that, but I mean, you should be able to juggle that. He's got the podcast with John Boy Media, Towing the Slab, which is great. You're working with Yes Network, which a few times a week. I actually know that's probably 5 times a week, and then you have Sunday Night Baseball. I mean, that should work. They should figure if they lose him this offseason, like, come on, you can't let that happen.
No, unless you want, the A-Rod. If you want to go get A-Rod, if you want to try to overpay for A-Rod so that he doesn't do his own Manning cast, which again, we're not kidding. By the way,
no,
A-Rod having his own Manning cast was a part of the conversation of how they're planning to blow up Sunday Night Baseball. I don't know how that works unless you're trying to set a record for least viewed program. If that's the goal, if you want to see what happens if you test the outer limits of what he made, what if we took the Manning test form and made it suck pure ass? Like, that's, I guess, the reason to have A-Rod in the role. But A-Rod hasn't said anything that's interested me in 4 or 5 years of broadcasting. No. He's serviceable on the Fox pre and post game. Yeah. Him and David Ortiz is fun. He's good in snippets and sound bites, and sometimes he laughs at himself, and sometimes he and Ortiz do the Yankees lose and Red Sox suck when we beat them. It's sort of in the post game. And when he was in the Jersey Street getting booed after the Red Sox ALCS games last, that was fun. But A-Rod during the broadcast is completely inane, and you leave him alone to his own devices, and now he's like conducting interviews. The Manning cast is 4/4 of interviews. Special guests pop by. It's also 2 people, not 1. So it's Peyton and Eli joking with each other, brothers, having a laugh. Then they bring on a different guest every quarter. Baseball doesn't have quarters. I don't know if you have 9 innings of guests for A-Rod. I don't know if you give every guest 45 minutes and try to just do 4 guests. I don't know if he has a co-host. He can't do it alone. I'm not going to watch A-Rod sit and interview people during a baseball game, but also try to commentate on the game, which is when his absolute worst beast comes out. And he starts saying things like home runs are not how you win baseball games. They are. And also, A-Rod, you hit 700 of them. So if you don't think home runs are how you win baseball games, I don't know. But something happened to you between, like, okay, I know things happen to you over the course of your career. Your body changed. I'm sure your chemistry became quite different. But between your career, when you stopped hitting 696 dingers and retired to become a commentator, something happened to convince you that what you'd done for 20 years was bad. Maybe it's deep-rooted shame at the way you cheated the game. And you intrinsically think everything that you did is now negative, because if you did it with your body and you took your God-given talent and roided yourself up, maybe the more you educate people on hitting bunts and slapping singles through the hole, the better society will be. Fewer people will be tempted to take steroids. Maybe that's it. But you hit a lot of home runs, and now most of your in-game commentaries. What was his favorite inning of the whole playoffs last year? Was when someone hit a ground ball through the hole and there was like an error and like someone took the extra base. The Astros scored. Oh, it was the inning where the Astros scored like 5 runs because there was somebody stole second and then there was a throw home, but there was no relay, guys. So the ball just rolled around the field and the catcher couldn't catch it. Like, and A-Rod was like, that's baseball. You put the pressure on. It's like, that's not baseball, man. That really sucked. That was a bunch of people failing in a row. That was a bunch of people doing their jobs very poorly. So all of this is to say, I am not on board with the A-Rod Manning cast.
Hey.
You can't put it on a real channel. You can pay him and then just put a non-working camera in his house, but you can't broadcast it.
Look, if this is secondary, I don't care. I'll be watching a broadcast with Carl Ravitch and David Cohn. I'll tell you that right now. Look, broadcasting's hard. Broadcasting is very difficult. You have to be in tune, paying attention to the game, having the correct insight, being able to connect the dots and talk about something relevant, which unfortunately Alex Rodriguez could not do for that amount of time. Not really a knock on him. It's a difficult job. I do love him in the pregame and postgame. I think that's great. I think that's where he's best suited. He can inject his wisdom, his knowledge, and have it be applicable to something that actually makes sense instead of him just going off on a tangent in the bottom of the 6th inning about nothing that has nothing to do with anything. And I don't need to hear Matt Vasgersian's Santa Maria call ever again. No. Didn't like it. Glad it's gone. Look, and I'm not being a jerk here. They were not well received by a national audience. So I'm not out here trying to knock down these guys down a peg because of whatever they had done over the past few years.
I don't.
It was not a good broadcast, according to a lot of people. And I know usually the majority opinion in everyday circles, because most people are kind of dumb, is not the way to go. But you're talking about baseball fans here who were, Sunday Night Baseball is a beloved thing. It's a way to wind down at the end of the week. It was part of my household, at least, and I knew what it meant to me. If a lot of people aren't receiving that well, then it's not good. But on a more positive note, dude, David Cohn on the broadcast would be perfect. He elevates the Yes broadcast, which I think is brutal. People got on me last year because I thought that I think the SNY broadcast is better than the Yes broadcast. And people
Sure, I agree with that.
Came after me. I was like, "What? Do you watch them ever?" It's the Yes broadcast is not good, but Cohn elevates it to a point where people were talking about, hey, can David Cohn manage the New York Yankees? Because that would sure be great. We love what he has to say. We love his ability to seamlessly blend the analytical aspect of the game with the gut instinct or just the basic, gumption aspect of the game, where it's not just numbers. It's not just a spreadsheet. It's not just the script that you went by before the game happened. It's, I'm a baseball player. I'm a baseball manager. I know how to act in this situation. I can react to things in real time and go off script and figure it out. David Cohn perfectly encapsulates that newer school viewpoint where it's like, all right, let's not go too far left with the analytics. Let's not go too far right about, putting the ball in play is the answer and having a dedication and having the right dedication and being motivated to play baseball is the answer. No, there's a lot of factors that go into baseball and how the game's evolved. He seems to have his finger on the pulse. His career spanned 3 decades, late 80s, all of 90s, early 2000s. That's a guy who's played in different eras with a lot of different people, with a ton of different teams. Cy Young winner, World Series winner, well-spoken dude, down to earth. That's somebody I want in the broadcast. I'm sure you feel the same way. I'm sure a lot of Yankee fans feel the same way. And, you kind of have that in the family type thing on the national broadcast. It's good. It kind of gives you a stake in the weekly affair. Like, oh, the Yankees aren't on Sunday Night Baseball, but David Cohn's talking about baseball, so I could listen to that for 3 hours. Much better than what we've experienced. How long was the A-Rod? Has that been 3 years?
3 or 4. I mean, to think that their last ever game together could be Matt Vescursion calling Giancarlo Stanton's first inning single off the Green Monster in the wild card game with, oh, he got another one. He got another one. No.
What did I miss?
Stopped him first. One of the worst moments of my modern life. It just that and seeing Eric Chavez get stolen by the Mets. Two worst things to ever happen to me. It's pretty funny that the Yankees managerial job has such, like, the ESPN Sunday Night broadcast job has such bearing. The fact that Aaron Boone could go from the booth to the actual managerial job, and the fact that we all want David Cohn to go from the booth to the managerial job, and that's the place that we're all looking for our next managers. What a weird world we live in. I mean, Cohn would be a complete joy, and Ravitch is great. Anybody who watched the Korean baseball organization games last early pandemic when there was no Major League Baseball knows Karl Ravitch is great at this. He definitely harkens back to the early Baseball Tonight days too, makes you feel a little nostalgic for ESPN when it actually somewhat mattered to watch baseball every night and then also Sunday night. And we might be getting the KBO broadcast back if there's no Major League Baseball for a long time this year, but that's another thing entirely. Cohn, Ravitch, absolutely. A-Rod, best of luck in all your future endeavors. That is it for this Thursday edition of the Yanks Go Yard podcast. Make sure to find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Drop us a 5-star review along with a mailbag question. We'll be more than happy to answer it. I'm holding off a belch during the speech, which is really hard. Come find us live on YouTube Mondays and Thursdays, 2 o'clock Eastern time. We're going to be streaming live on Twitter as well. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. Thomas Carannante, where can the people find you?
Woo, at Tommy's_takes. Plenty of conversation going on there. I got a lot of things to say. We're having fun, though. It's a great time. Head on over to yanksgoyard.com. A lot of content there for you, a lot of off-season stuff, a lot of lockout stuff. Some buzz is coming out. Believe it or not, we had a very, very slow last couple weeks. Holidays are coming up. People didn't really want to report anything or talk about anything. Now, we got stuff coming out. Not us, but you're hearing things from insiders. Worthwhile information. We're spinning it. We're trying to make sense of it and figure it out. Head on over to the Yanks Go Yard official Twitter account at Yanks Go Yard FS. We'll be there for conversations as well. Next time, we'll see everybody Monday at 2 p.m. on YouTube right here. Have a great weekend. Enjoy it.
Peace out, everybody.